Guys, and welcome. Today we're going to be going in detail over all of the stats in the game. Now, if you've played the game at least a little bit, I'm sure you've read through all of these, which is good for little Timmy to start building his kit and kind of get around what he is looking for. But if you're trying to be Chad, you must go to the Dark and Darker wiki or watch this video so you can fully comprehend how all of these stats affect the percentages down below them. Before we hop right into all of these stats, I want to get a few things out of the way. With our first weapon slot here, we have two daggers, which have an armor penetration of 5% each. That gets added together. Hopping over here, we have a gray rapier and a short sword with 1 additional weapon damage. You do not have to use the short sword at all if you do not choose to. The rapier will take both of these stat rolls from this because they are being used together. Whenever these are put away, none of these stats carry over. Everything on your person will be applied all the time. If we take a look at our agility stat, take off these loose trousers, that goes down by 1. Now everything on our utility bar will function the same as the weapons. This lyre gives us 1 resourcefulness, but it does not apply until it is pulled out. The last thing we have to get out of the way is scaling. We have a magic power bonus here and a fizz power bonus of -25% and -6%. Rupture is a physical damage attack, so we use the -6% number, while poison weapon is a magical damage attack, so we use the -25% number. Starting with poison weapon, since our magic power bonus is -25%, we will actually be doing less than 4 damage. But if we look at the parenthesis number, that is 0.5, meaning it is a 50% scaling. This helps us because we will be taking 50% of our magic power bonus, which is only 12.5%, and then taking that off of the 4, making us deal 3.5 damage. These numbers can be inflated, which we will go over later on how to do that, so you can actually be dealing more than 4, unlike the base rogue dealing less than 4. If we go to rupture, this is again a 50% scaling. So 50% of -6 is only -3, making us do -3% of 20. Can't do that one off the top of my head, but I will have a calculation shown here. Caltrops is a 100% scaling, as noted by the 1.0, and it is physical damage. So 100% of our -6 is going to be applied to that 10 damage. Now to actually get into the stats, I will be using pendants and rings that all have additional or true damage on them, so we can focus solely on the base stats that all of these provide, 1 for each, and we'll be starting top to bottom. So if we put on this ox pendant, our strength obviously goes up by 1, and our health also goes up by 1. Max health is a calculation using strength and vigor. Every 4 strength will be 1 max health, and every 4 vigor will actually be 3 max health. A linear thing you get from strength 1 to 1 is physical power. If we take this off, it goes down by 1, up by 1. Our percentage, however, is not linear. This has -6, then with it on, it is -4. And this is because there is a power curve. Here are the ranges in which the soft caps are applied. But because we only have 13 physical power, we are getting 2% each. But what if we put on a shadow hood that has 5 strength? Now we are at 17 physical power, and if we were to put this ox pendant on, we only get 1%. Alright, and now we can move into vigor. Like I said previously, 4 vigor will actually give you 3 health. Because of the calculation that I'll put up here once more. So again, we have the 1 base stat going up, we have the 1 health going up. We come down here to health recovery bonus. I would argue that this stat is pretty worthless, as you only get it from sitting down inside the dungeon or sitting at a campfire. Neither of these stats are going to make or break any of your PvP fights, and you should be using something like a health potion or a bandage instead. That was a pretty quick and easy one, so we'll go ahead and move on to agility. So agility is a fun one because we get movement speed as well as action speed. We will have gotten 0.2% faster as well as 0.4% more action speed and a little tidbit of regular interaction speed. Agility works with movement speed on a curve, much like much other stats, and the soft caps will be laid out here. So on this class with 22 agility, each 1 agility will give me 0.25% of a move speed, which gets rounded down in this case. As for action speed, That is a combination of your agility and dexterity using this calculation here, similar to strength and vigor for your max health. Now this one is slightly different because the max health, after doing the calculation, will just be the max health added to your base. On this one, we have soft caps as shown. If we do the math for this character, we have 23 times 0.25 and 26 times 0.75. Add those together, we have a 25.25 number. Without the agility pendant, we will be at 25, which gives us 1% up to 10%, which is why we had the 10% without the pendant. But with the pendant, that will give us that extra 0.25, which then bumps us up into the next category, which is 1.5% each. But since we only have a quarter of that, we only get a quarter of the 1.5%, giving us that 0.4. This may have been a typo, or they just need to update it because maybe they changed something. But if we look at our regular interaction speed when applying this agility pendant, it will go up to 42.2. And if we read this, it says it is based on resourcefulness and dexterity. If we put on our resourcefulness one, definitely goes up. But if we put on our dexterity one, it does not change at all. I believe this to just be a typo, but as of right now, this is wrong. Dexterity, along with agility, like stated before, will use the calculation to determine your action speed. It will also bump up your manual dexterity, which is how fast a bard will play his songs. It also affects your equip speed, which if you are in the dungeon and you put on pants, they will not instantly be put onto your character. You have to sit and wait for a little bit, and then they will be put on. But there's no reason to be building dexterity just for this stat alone. Will is a multifunctional stat. Starting with magical interaction speed, this is how fast you can grab a healing shrine, protection shrine, open a portal. So nothing that, just like your equip speed, nothing that I would really build will just for this stat. It is just a nice little side bonus. More importantly, it will affect your buff and debuff duration. As for buff duration, it will go on this curve here. Buff duration is important because any temporary buff you receive, such as from a bard or a cleric, will last longer or shorter depending on this percentage number. Debuff duration may be the only stat that you actually want to be negative. So you can see if we put this badger pendant on, it goes down quite a bit by just having one will. This is governing the amount of time a rupture, poison attack, or any other damage over time attack will last on you. Your debuff duration does not affect your rupture that you're dealing to people. Their debuff duration affects the rupture that has now been applied to them. This is not something I would build will on. I would much rather agility or strength from another piece of equipment. And I also skipped over magic resistance you will get from will. I plan a future video where I go over damage dealing as well as mitigation. And it kind of is a longer video. Didn't want to include it in here. Subscribe if you want to see that down the road. On to magic power bonus. One will is one magic power, just like our strength is one physical power. And the magic power curve looks something like this. So will, a very good stat for wizards, warlocks, and clerics, all dealing magical damage. On to knowledge. Whenever we put this on, we can see our spell recovery bonus will jump up. Potions of clarity are very expensive, as we can see, as compared to potions of healing, where we can get 3 of them for 18. So sitting on the ground to regain spells as a spellcaster is very normal and everybody has to do it. Unlike sitting down for health recovery, you don't really have to do this. Moving down here to our spellcasting speed, you can see it is -12 with the ring on, down to -15, because this is also on a curve, just like everything else pretty much, as you can see here. Moving over to my wizard so I can better demonstrate. If we take off our leather chausses, go into our spells, we can see down here, with all of the spells that I have here, I can actually not cast Chain Lightning because I need 30 and I only have 26 memory capacity. If I take this off, we are obviously in the clear. So what this means is I need 4 knowledge or 4 memory capacity. These gray ones being 1 knowledge, which would not be enough, but these blue ones being 4 knowledge, being perfect for our situation. Now with those extra knowledge points, we get faster spell casting speed, as well as we can cast every spell that we have in our books now. Now there are also other ways to get additional memory capacity. These ones here, as you see, have 4 knowledge and 2 additional. So if we put these on, that would actually be equivalent to 6 memory capacity. The difference between knowledge and memory capacity is our spell casting speed does not change with these. However, whenever we look in here, those 2 additional take us from 31 to 33. Another option we have is a percentage memory capacity bonus. This one providing 8% as well as 3 additional memory capacity. Last but not least, we have our resourcefulness here. It is kind of a forgotten about stat, but it's coming into the limelight with a couple weird builds coming out. A lot of people saw resourcefulness as regular interaction speed, and a lot of people don't really care about looting too much. You can't loot if you're dead, so if you have a bunch of strength gear rather than resourcefulness gear, you can kill people, take their loot, and then loot some chests if you wanted to afterwards, albeit a little bit slower just because you don't have resourcefulness. Now they are finding a way to use resourcefulness because of the latter half of this, and I think a lot of people just skip this at first. Skill cooldowns are reduced. Our hide, which makes us go invisible, smoke pot, or any of these, does not matter which one you wanted to pick, will now be able to be used more frequently because of our resourcefulness. Just for that alone of getting to use more skills more rapidly is very good. Now down here to our interaction speeds, we have an increase to our regular interaction speed. We have an increase to our persuasiveness, and persuasiveness is how long a bard song will last on you. Bard songs are affected by both persuasiveness as well as buff duration. This is the cooldown percentage stat I was speaking of with your skills cooldown. So we put this on, goes up 1% as that goes along this curve here. These numbers, as you can see, they have gone up. They are only affected by stat rolls on gear and jewelry. This amulet has 3 physical healing. So if we look at our bandage, it has 15 health with 100% scaling, making this heal for 18. If we look at our potion of healing, which is magical healing, we have 5 magical healing on the occultist, which means that 50% of the 5 is applied to this, so 22.5 health would be healed. So 22.5, you might be wondering if that heals for 22 or 23, but there is in fact decimal health. It is just never displayed in the game. That being said, your health in game always rounds up and it never rounds down. So your 22.5 will look like 23, but it is not. As for our warlocks, you can see our torture mastery here has 2 magical base healing and a 5% scaling. This 5% scaling will actually go on your magical healing number as well as your magical power bonus. So for easy numbers, if we use 20 magical healing and 20% magical power bonus, do these calculations here. As for cleric, his lesser heal is a 100% scaling, so if you have 5 magical healing, obviously bumps it up to 20. Sanctuary is another heal that only has 50% scaling. Now, just like torture mastery, your will and magic power bonus will actually impact these as well, so it is not as simple as 20 and 30. Now to wrap all this up, we have gone over everything except for utility effectiveness, and this number also changes nothing in the game as of now. All I'm gonna say for luck is you can buy gear with luck on it, as well as going into your merchants, fortune teller, and get potions of luck. Solomon, I will link his channel down below, has a great video on luck and why it actually may not be luck. You're just gonna have to watch it. It's about 12 minutes. Armor and magic penetration I did not cover, but I will cover in my next upcoming video. I thought about putting it into this video, but it would just make it too long. I'm already creeping up on the 15-minute mark. And down here we have the impact power, which is important for fighting people with shields or breaking boxes. I will also cover this more in detail on my next video. And now, believe it or not, we have made it through everything. There are a couple other videos that I want to make, so if you are interested in the damage calculation, which is quite confusing to new players. There are a lot of stats that don't do exactly what you think they would do in the damage calculation, such as armor penetration, kind of a weird one. So if you're interested in any types of videos just like this one, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.